great to see you.
Hey, John.
I'm sure seeing me is not nearly as important as the great news you heard today about Damar. Just how uplifting. I know it's been uplifting every day we hear the good news, but to know where things are at just a week later, your reaction and emotions to that news.
Just makes you feel real good, John, and know that he's back in Buffalo and, just continually improving every single day. Just so much relief. And, it's an answer to prayer that he's just continuously gotten better. So we got that news just a short while ago that he was back and doing well and just consistently improving. I think all of us as a staff, just a big sigh of relief, just a lot of smiles, a lot of happy faces.
Yeah, beyond the room and building as well. Saw you were one of the last people to leave the stadium a week ago. How would you describe your role through all of this that's not really being a football coach over the past week?
Such a unique situation with all the things that were transpiring and the fact that Sean and Brandon and some of our other staff were going to be heading over to the hospital. Someone needed to be there to kind of give some direction to the ball club and really handle some other things that were going on, at the stadium. And as we were getting ready to either stay in Cincinnati overnight or for however long we needed to stay, or get ready to go back to Buffalo. So we were, going through all of that. And so just in my communication with Sean and Brandon and being able to communicate to our club and the rest of our staff that was still at the stadium. That was kind of my role, to be the go-between from a communication standpoint. And it worked out, fairly well.
And lastly, from the point you got back early Tuesday morning to through the weekend, how were you of service to your team, again, beyond just the X's and O's and planning to face the Patriots on Sunday?
Just try to encourage our guys as much as I could. As you know, John, it was a difficult time because when we got back, we were still in flux as to Damar's status and how he was coming along. We were all wondering. There was so much uncertainty once we landed, and even when we came in the building the next day. So my role was more just trying to encourage our players and try to, keep them in a positive frame of mind and just hoping for the best and just to continuously stay in prayer and not give up. But just wanted to encourage them to keep their heads up and keep believing. And fortunately, we got some good news, as each day.
Thanks, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, John Worrell, AP.
Hey, John.
Just from your perspective and having been in that seat as a coach, how did you see it's been remarkable to seeing how Sean has, traversed and managed and showed, I guess, some vulnerability and compassion in dealing with this. What was your perspective in how Sean kind of oversaw this difficult time and helped guide this team through it?
He's done a tremendous job, John, as you mentioned, and he and I were talking about this a couple of days ago when we were having breakfast, that there's no head coach handbook for a situation like this. There's no manual that tells you how to handle these types of situations. And he's done a terrific job of leading and just having the compassion and the empathy that's necessary in a moment in these moments. And our players have kind of fed off of that and the way he's handled things. And I think that's kind of showed up in their performance as well. It's difficult as this week has been in so many ways, but then to go out and perform at such a high level on Sunday, a testament to Sean's leadership.
Yeah, and what about this team's resilience overall and all the things it's had to overcome this year, knowing there's still some challenges ahead?
You said that. That's the word, resiliency. They've shown that throughout the year as a club, and we were talking about that on defense the night before the game, the resiliency to be able to handle the different circumstances and challenges and not let them knock them down, just believe every day that tomorrow is going to be better than today. And they played that way. They've handled their business that way. It's been encouraging just to watch our players just bounce back and deal with so much adversity over the course of the year, and none more challenging than what we witnessed on Monday night. And for those guys to persevere and to keep going says a lot about who they are as individuals.
Thanks so much, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, as you guys begin to prepare for postseason football, how will you let Damar and his recovery continue to inspire the team?
Well, obviously every time we get the good news, it's inspirational. It lifts us all up, Maddie. So I think for our players, it was such a relief on Friday when they had a chance to witness Damar on Zoom, giving the hand signals, shouting out a word, and that lifted everyone's spirit, and practice kind of was evidenced by that. I mean, everyone was more relaxed. Guys were talking more uplifted, and I think we'll kind of hopefully carry that on. He's in our hearts. You saw that. It was evidenced on Sunday. You see how the guys feel about him. So I think they want to carry that all the way through these playoffs and really keep him in mind and play as if he were out there with us every single down. We want to make him proud as he's watching us perform, and I think the guys are going to keep him close to their hearts as we get ready for the next ball game.
You've played in and coached in a lot of football games. What was the atmosphere like yesterday? Was it anything that you've ever experienced before?
Man, it was incredible, man. It was electric all the way around. From the time I got up to walking over to the stadium, just all these emotions you feel with as a coach and for our players as well. And once we entered the stadium and went out for the introductions, just the reaction by the fans, incredible, just incredible, and just a sea of emotions. And then, of course, the kickoff return for a touchdown. I mean, the place had to be the loudest place in all of the world. I mean, it was just a great moment, a great moment. I don't know if there's been another one quite like it. Just surreal in so many ways.
Thanks, Leslie.
You're welcome.
So, good afternoon, Coach Fraser. George Radley, Challenger Community News.
Hello, George.
This question: how would you say from your early years in Alcorn with Coach Marino Kasem up to now, how did that help lead you to deal with various situations, including what the situation you had to deal with this past week?
Yeah, my time at Alcorn under Coach Kasem was, there were so many moments where he put us in adverse situations where, you really felt like, man, he's trying to break us. He's trying to determine if we're going to be able to handle this. And if we could, we had a chance to, and he'd always tell us this, you have a chance to be a champion. And so he would push us to the brink a lot of times, George, from a physical standpoint, and even challenging us mentally as well. And those guys that did survive, they did eventually become champions. So that time at Alcorn definitely helped to prepare me for some of the adverse situations I've faced in life, where you have an attitude that I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to let this situation defeat me. And some of that comes back to my time at Alcorn and some of the things we faced, some of the things that Coach Kasem and the staff put us through that were very, very challenging in a lot of ways, whether it was 3-a-day practices, or making you back crawl out or making a mistake, whatever it may be. We were challenged. So it was really good for me from a formative standpoint.
Yes, indeed. I can imagine some of those today, man. I know some young people listening probably think that's unheard of.
They probably think it's unheard of.
Yeah.
Once upon a time, it was a little different.
It certainly was. And last but not least, how do you prepare for three quarterbacks or prepare for the Dolphins this coming week?
Yeah, that definitely presents different challenges when you don't know who the starting quarterback will be. But we do know who some of the other pieces are and where they'll line up at, and that's what we have to get ready for. And we do have some tape on all three quarterbacks, so we'll watch that and try to have a plan for each one. But it definitely makes it more difficult but we'll figure it out. We'll find a way.
All right. Thank you very much, and good luck this coming week.
Thank you.
Hey, Leslie, I know you touched on a few different points during the last week, but just to start, how are you doing right now?
Much better, Catherine. Just to hear that news today that Damar's back in Buffalo and at the hospital resting, so encouraging, just very uplifting to hear that and to know he's well on his way to recovery. It just eases your mind. So I feel much, much better.
I think we were speaking for everyone, all really glad to hear that too. When we were talking to Tre'Davious last night, he was telling us just about the close-knitness of the DB room. And I feel like we've talked to you a bit more this season about what the D-line room is like, of how they're so loud, all those personalities. But what do you see from that room, the DBs, of just kind of their closeness throughout the season, and what it's like for them going through this right now?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that group has a special affinity for me, being a guy who played in the secondary, and I'm always conscious of watching them and how they interact with one another. And we've been fortunate to have two great leaders, and Micah Hyde and Jordan Poirier kind of leading our secondary over the years. And then with Tre'Davious being the leader that he is, we've had a great group for the young guys to kind of model. And so this year, just watching those guys interact and how close they've become, partially because of all the moving parts we've had in the secondary, they've gotten closer because of that. We've had some adversity when it comes to injuries and different things in the secondary. And so when what happened to Damar happened, if there was one group, Catherine, that was really hit hard and you could see the effect from an emotional standpoint, those individuals. If you could have seen Michael Hyde in the locker room or Tre'Davious, I mean, it's just, it was hard, really, really hard, because, you hear people talk about brotherhood and it's real. When you are as close as these guys get, especially here in Buffalo, where, you're not, when you have some downtime, a lot of times you're spending it with your teammates. And in our case, our secondary, when they are alone, away from the building, they're hanging out together. So there is a brotherhood that goes beyond what they do at the facility. And so if something happens to one of them, it's like it's happening to me. And that is hard emotionally. And so it had a big effect on each one of them. And just like the good news has had a positive effect, the news that we were watching and receiving on Monday evening was difficult as well.
Yeah, Tre was telling us about that last night. What really stood out was those light moments earlier in the season of kind of outside of football, things like that. Are there any times this season that are memorable to you, of just, something really funny or, I don't know, noteworthy to come out of that group of guys?
Well, they're always, clowning around and having fun with each other. So that's not out of the ordinary. I don't know if there's any one particular thing. I just reflect back on how they responded, even when Micah was injured, and how it galvanized those guys as far as coming together and just pulling for him and trying to do their very best to stay together, stay united as he was going through his adversity early in the season. But I don't know if there's one particular thing I could point to.
No, that's all good. Thanks, Leslie. Appreciate the insight.
You're welcome.
Hi, Leslie. Good to see you. Last night when we were talking to Tre, he was really open and honest, and just, we saw the raw emotion of how much this has impacted him. And he said things like, I can't unsee the things that I saw. First of all, what was it like to see him go out there and have the kind of game that he did yesterday? And then I guess just what have your conversations been like him? We talk about the importance of mental health and the human element of all of this. Just, I guess, from that side of being a coach, what has that been like to constantly kind of be checking up on players, especially guys that are really, struggling with them?
Yeah, to answer your first question, it was exciting to see Tre come up with that big interception yesterday, and some of the other plays he made, especially under the circumstances where deep down you feel like you're playing in a lot of ways to honor Damar. You want to make sure that you play one of your best games out of respect for him. And so when Tre got that interception, that was, it was awesome in so many ways because of their relationship and the relationship of the guys in the secondary in general. As far as the mental health piece, we've been fortunate and with the fact that Sean has had different people coming in that are professionals to help our players to deal with some of the emotions that they went through a few days ago. And rather than having to rely just on friends and family, there have been professionals in the building to help them to get through some of those dark moments. And Tre's right. I mean, it's hard to unsee some of the things that we saw. The big thing is to be able to put it in its proper place and to be able to handle it in the right way and to channel it in the correct way. And what has helped us all is the good news that we've had since Monday evening. That has been so uplifting, as I mentioned earlier. And that has kind of helped all of us to continue to move forward, just like Demar would want us to. But the good news has made a tremendous difference, because there was a time where we were all, pretty down, just wondering what direction this would all go. And like a lot of our fans, we were just wondering. So, so my role, just like everybody else that's in the building, is to encourage our players and to help them. There have been a number of times, I put an arm around a guy and just gave him a hug, and vice versa, give me a hug as well, and just try to keep each other going. But where things are today makes life a whole lot better,
And then on the field, Leslie, just one more for you. What did you see from Dean filling in and being asked to step in there?
I thought he did a really good job under the circumstances. He was with us, prior to this season. It's been probably a couple of years since he was with us, and he hadn't really been getting a lot of reps. We were giving other guys the reps because he wasn't really addressing in ball games. So for us to thrust him into that starting role and for him to play as well as he did yesterday, hats off to him. He did a terrific job under some tough circumstances.
Thanks, Leslie. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Hey, Leslie, I'm curious, I know you talked about how it was like after the game and just what it was like Monday night. And if you don't want to go back to this, that's also, I totally understand. But Sean had told us that when things were happening and everyone was still on the field, seeing if the game was going to resume, you were someone who kind of helped him in that moment. I guess just what was that like for you when everything was happening all at once, and to have the foresight to be there for Sean in that moment?
Well, I think, Elena, it's a good question. Some of it, my experience definitely came into play in that moment. And I've been in some harrowing situations. If you remember the roof collapsing in Minnesota on the day of a ball game, here we are trying to make different decisions about what to do, how to handle it, and end up playing the first Tuesday night game, I think, in NFL history following that game. So we dealt with some adverse situations, and that one was that was a tough moment. And as I was observing him and observing the officials as they were trying to figure out next steps, I wanted to be able to help him, make some good decisions. And so I just shared some thoughts in the moment to help create some clarity for him. And fortunately, he listened and things moved in the right direction. But I appreciate his willingness to listen in a very stressful time, very stressful moment. And fortunately for all of us, things worked out and are still working out very well.
Yeah, and that's I can speak for the group. I think all been thinking all the best for you, and knowing how close you are, obviously, with your players. And I was curious on a lighter note, we've asked you a lot this year about how Damar has kind of progressed on the field and obviously filling in that spot for Micah. But I was curious for you, how you've maybe stuff behind the scenes, like away from the field, like how you've kind of maybe seen Damar I don't know, grow into more of himself, or maybe how you've seen Damar kind of develop, or what you've seen from him this year away from just his play?
Yeah, I think, Lena, with all the challenges that he's faced as a first-time starter, there's so many things you're dealing with on the field. Where I've seen it, where I was watching the most growth was as a person, just watching him begin to interact more with his teammates, talking a lot more, communicating a lot more. And I think I referenced that from a football standpoint, but also as you watch him on the sideline, interacting with guys, and just talking about life or just talking in general. And that's a sign of growth as well, where you're not just vexing and fretting over the next football play. At some point, you have to take a deep breath and live this game. And he was doing that. So in my mind, you knew he was going to be all right as a player because now he's becoming himself, just letting the real Damar just come into play as opposed to just being a robot. And, well, this is my assignment. I got to get to here and I got to get to point A. I got to get to point B. Be yourself. Just be who you are. And that was beginning to come through, which is really, really good for us.
Were you at all surprised to hear that the first question when he woke up was if you guys had won the game? Was that surprising to you at all?
Not very surprising. He is a competitor, wants to win in everything that he does. And that sounded just like Damar, for sure, no doubt.
Thank you so much, Leslie.
You're welcome.
Coach Frazier, Mookie Hawkins, Waffle Sports 1080. How you doing?
I'm doing good, Monkey. Doing good.
Man, I don't know of any team that's went through so much adversity as this team right here to still be division champs for 3 years in a row, to have a 13-3 record. So, Coach, I just first and foremost, I want to say hats off to you, Coach McDermott, the staff, and everybody there on doing the outstanding job of preparing your guys for the field of play, going through so much adverse moments. So. It's just, I mean, I'm quite sure, you could write a book on it, in some years to come, but, to football we go. Playing Miami for the third straight time. And, Miami ran a lot of, motions, window dressings, trying to negate your blitzing, blitzing the guy, especially, in the run game where Mostert ran for over 173 yards. How do you focus on stopping the run when they have two explosive weapons in the passing game?
Yeah, that's a good question, Elmer, because you're right. They have two guys in a passing game that if you ignore them, they can make it a long day for you. So you got to pay attention to them. But yet, you still got to deal with this run game. So it presents some challenges, and that's one of the reasons for a long time they were one of the top offenses in the league because of that two-headed monster that they have. So, we're going to have to be able to deal with their run game and try to contain those two really good wideouts. Both Tyreek and Waddle are really good, but we got to be able to deal better with this run game than we did the last time we played it, without sacrificing the pass defense.
Absolutely, Coach. And how does this defensive front continue to create pressure on quarterbacks in Von Miller's absence?
Yeah, kudos to our guys, man. They just keep battling. It's a big loss not having Von, obviously. But between Greg and Ed and Daquan, they're doing a really good job of finding a way. When you see AJ Epinesa fighting to get to that quarterback, you see Boogie Basham working as hard as he can, Tim Settle continuously improving. Those guys are just battling every single play to try to generate a pass rush and get these quarterbacks disrupted, and they're doing a good job of that.
Coach, I salute you for being that rock for Coach McDermott during this tough time with this team. Have a great week of practice and good luck on Sunday.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's all for today. Thanks, Leslie.
You're welcome.